My final experience report is reflecting my experience I had on public transportation for about roughly 3 hours and the media usage which people showed on the bus. Well, I took a couple of buses and I took a couple stops with the Max, but it was really hard to track data, so I kind of just did buses. Observed roughly about 150 people in those 3 hours. And I was tracking people on their phone, people listening to music, and people reading. And for the most part, about 61% were on their phone for the majority of the time they were on the bus. Of the 61%, 59% were on top of it listening to some kind of entertainment. They had their headphones in, so I don't know what they did, but probably most of them listening to music, some of them listening to or watching videos on their phone. And then I saw 8 people actually reading of the roughly 150. One was a ebook thing, 3 were actually books, and then 4 were newspapers. And while my expectations I had in my head a little bit were that the younger generation in general is more on their phones than people 30 to 50, and then everything over that I was not really expecting them to be on the phone a lot. And the younger generation didn't really disappoint it. They were on their phone. Most of them were on their phones, starting as young as I saw 7 or 8-year-old boys being on their phones and not talking to each other, even they were together. Using the bus, they were on their phones for the couple of stops they did. But then the people 30 and 50 kind of surprised me by how much they were using their phones. And everybody was kind of like neck down, like looking down on whatever mobile device they had. Most of them had actually phones. I didn't saw any iPads or tablets. So it was kind of weird to see everybody like down and not a lot of people like actually looked outside the window. The older people, they kind of did. And then they were also the only ones reading newspapers and in paper format. So that was kind of I was experiencing. It was a lot of like phone driven, which kind of makes sense knowing that the phone is like probably the most important thing these days for everybody, like having pretty much their whole life on their phone. But also it was interesting to see like most of the people were actually like by themselves using, like they were individuals using the bus. It was not a lot of groups, and the groups I saw, most of them started interacting with each other, but after a while when they kind of like got like run out of topics to talk about, I guess they started using their phones too at one point. And then also I saw actually a group of 3 girls, teenage age, and they were talking to each other while being on their phones the whole time, pretty much talking about what they were seeing on their phones. And it was kind of like interesting because they were talking really loud, so I kind of heard the whole conversation too. But also, I didn't see a lot of people actually talking on their phone, which, I mean, the phone pretty much was created for to like talk to people, but most people were just typing, so I guess they were messaging people, and that was kind of to expect too, because like people are not really calling each other anymore, other than like making sure like we're gonna meet at that specific point, which I saw too, like a lady calling that she was like getting off the bus there, and making sure like they meet at the same place. But I saw a lot of like from the people I saw who were in my area, a lot of people checking social media, texting, watching YouTube, which was kind of interesting because I think the better the mobile plans get, like the phone plans get, the more you can watch videos on the road because you don't run out of data. Like you probably have the unlimited data plans, and it just felt really isolated. And it was funny because first I was really worrying about like people looking at me because like I was looking and checking everybody kind of like out what they were doing. And first I was a little worried that people would like kind of look at me strange because like what's she doing, whatever. But most of them they didn't even recognize me because they were just so involved with what was going on their phones that they didn't even realize, I guess, that was like looking around and taking notes on what were people doing. And I don't think a lot of people like actually noticed me and what I was doing. So in general, it was a kind of like really isolated experience because everybody was kind of in their little world, and even like the people who entered the bus as a group ended up being like on their phones by themselves, talking to other people or like texting other people, I guess. Something. So overall, the experience wasn't really super surprising. Even like little details surprised me, like the usage of people or the phone usage of people who were like 30 to 50 years old. But overall, it was just like every other time I'm taking the bus and everybody's on their phones and nobody really looks at each other, and like people don't even want to sit next to each other. So a lot of people are like choosing to stand, even though clearly enough seats, but it's not a single, like it's not a double seat open. It's just like one person sits there, and like so people don't want to sit down, which was kind of interesting. And yeah, I didn't really see a broad variety of different medias than the phone, newspapers, and books, which was about it. And then the commercials on the bus were all pretty bus oriented. It was like rules for riding the bus, help with transportation costs, like how you can lower them based on like how much money you make, how to plan your trip in the most efficient way. And then it also was like if you see something, say something, and the numbers were there which you can call. And then also one bus had like pictures of the operator of the month. So overall, the experience wasn't really surprising. It was pretty much mobile device, really hardly focused on mobile device. And yeah, that was my observations.